The brisket was on a platter in the center of the table, and my son-in-law Donovan was 3 glasses of red wine into the evening, which is when the rest of him usually became visible. "You know what's so funny about your mother, though," he said to my daughter Saffron, loud enough that the conversation around the rest of the table stopped on a dime. He gestured at me with his fork. "She's the only person I've ever met who is genuinely cheap. I mean, cheap in the way they used to mean it. Sweater from 1992. Calls the rotisserie chicken a good cut. Refuses to fly anything but coach when she has the money for first class. Cheap in the bone, you know. Cheap like a personality trait." The table laughed. Not all of them. Saffron laughed first, then her brother Augustine, then Donovan's brother Lyle, then Lyle's wife Camelia. Then Saffron's mother-in-law, Marlena Donovan's mother, visiting from Phoenix, who was sitting at the head of my own dining room table because Saffron had reorganized the seating chart for the holiday. And Mom, Marlena's neck is bad. She has to sit at the head. The chairs at the ends have arms. My granddaughter, Persephone, who was 13, did not laugh. She was looking at her plate. She had been looking at her plate for most of the evening. Donovan was still talking. "It's not even about the money. She has the money. That's what makes it funny. The house renovation alone, what is it, Saf? 200-something thousand. She could write the check tomorrow. She just won't. She'd rather sit on the cash like a Depression-era grandmother who buries her coffee can in the yard. Cheap, Margaret, cheap." He raised his wineglass at me. He was still smiling. No offense. I set my fork down. The brisket was on the platter. The wine was in my glass. The candles I had lit at 6 p.m. were 2/3 down. The renovation he was referencing was the master bath and kitchen remodel I had been planning for the property on Linden Avenue, the second house, the one my late husband Cyril and I had bought in 1991 as our retirement project, and which I had been managing carefully for the 6 years since his death. The renovation was scheduled to begin Monday morning. I had selected the cabinets myself. I had chosen the tile in May. The contractor, a man named Felix Ramos, whom Cyril had hired for our original kitchen in 1994, and whom I had trusted with the new project, because Cyril had trusted him with the old one, was scheduled to arrive at the property at 7 a.m. on Monday with his crew. The renovation budget was $248,000. Donovan knew the number because Saffron knew the number. Saffron knew the number because she had asked me about it in October, in the way she always asked about my finances, the way that pretended to be curiosity but was reconnaissance. I had told her the number because I had still been operating under the assumption that my daughter asked me about my money out of love. Tonight, sitting at my own dining room table while my son-in-law called me Depression era in front of his mother and my granddaughter, I understood that the assumption had been wrong for at least the last 4 years. I picked up my coffee cup. "Donovan." He looked up. The smile was still on his face. The fork was still in his hand. "Yes, Margaret? You said something just now that I want to make sure I heard correctly. Could you repeat it?" His smile flickered just slightly. "What the bit about being cheap? The whole sentence, please, from the top." He laughed. The laugh was a small attempt at deflection. "Margaret, I was joking. Donovan, I am asking you to repeat the sentence. I will not ask twice." The table had gone quiet. Saffron set down her wineglass. Her face had begun to do the thing it did when she realized a situation was no longer going where she had been steering it. "Mom?" "Saffron, let your husband repeat the sentence." Donovan looked at his wife. His wife looked at the candles. Donovan looked at his mother. His mother looked at her plate. He cleared his throat. Margaret, I said you were cheap, in a joking way. I said you could afford the renovation but wouldn't write the check. I should not have said it like that, in front of everyone. I apologize." "Donovan." "Yes. You said cheap in the bone like a personality trait. You said Depression-era grandmother who buries her coffee can in the yard. You said no offense. I want to make sure those are the phrases I heard. A long silence. Yes, Margaret. Those were the phrases. Thank you. I drank what was left of my coffee. I set the cup down. I stood up. I am going to step away for a few minutes. The brisket is on the platter. The wine is open. Please continue without me. Saffron started to stand up. Mom? Saffron, sit down. She sat down. I walked out of my own dining room, past the credenza Cyril had built me in 1986, and into my own study. I closed the door. I sat at Cyril's desk. The desk had been moved to my study after he died, because I had not been able to bear having it sit empty in his. I picked up the phone. I called Felix Ramos. It was 7:47 p.m. on a Saturday in November. Felix did not answer on the first ring. He answered on the third. Mrs. Whitmore. Felix, are you home with your family? I am, ma'am. I apologize for calling on a Saturday evening. I will keep this brief. I am cancelling the renovation on the Linden Avenue property. The crew should not arrive Monday morning. I will pay the cancellation fee in full, the full deposit, $25,000 plus the kill fee in the contract, total approximately $40,000. I want to be clear that I am cancelling because of a family matter and not because of any issue with you or your work. You will receive the funds by Tuesday. A small pause. Mrs. Whitmore, is everything all right? I closed my eyes. Felix, may I ask you a question? Of course. When Cyril hired you in 1994 for the original kitchen here on Madrone, do you remember the conversation you had with him before you started? A longer pause. I do, ma'am. He sat at his kitchen table with me and he said, I remember this clearly because it was unusual. He said, Felix, if my wife ever calls you to cancel a project, I want you to honour it without asking why. Catherine knows her own mind. If she's calling it off, it's because something has happened that justifies the call. I told him that was a strange thing to instruct a contractor about. He said, Felix, my wife is going to outlive me, and I want her to be able to make decisions about my houses without having to explain them to anyone. I sat very still in Cyril's chair. Felix. Yes, Mrs. Whitmore. Cyril told you that in 1994. He did, ma'am. He told you he wanted me to be able to cancel a project without explaining. He did. Felix, I am cancelling the project. I will not be explaining. Mrs. Whitmore, you do not have to. The crew will not arrive Monday. I will draw up the cancellation paperwork tomorrow and send it to your email by Sunday afternoon. The kill fee is $12,000, not $15,000. I am rounding down because we have worked together a long time, and because Cyril once paid me on a Friday when he did not have to. The total will be $37,000 and change. Felix, thank you. Mrs. Whitmore, yes. Are you selling the property? I sat with the question for a long moment. I had not, when I had picked up the phone, planned to sell the property. I had planned only to cancel the renovation. But Felix had asked the question, and somewhere between the question and the answer, I understood that the renovation was not what had been killed at the table tonight. The renovation was simply the smallest visible piece of a larger plan that had been killed at the table tonight. The larger plan was that I would, eventually, hand the property to Saffron. Cyril had wanted that. He had said it once, in 2017, before he got sick. Margaret, the second house is for Saffron, when she's ready. He had said, when she's ready, not when we feel like it. Saffron was not ready. Saffron was, in fact, the opposite of ready. Saffron was a woman who had sat at my table tonight and laughed while her husband called me cheap in the bone in front of her 13-year-old daughter. Saffron was a woman who had told her husband the number of my renovation budget so he could use it at a dinner party, as evidence that I was hoarding wealth I should be sharing. Saffron was not ready. Saffron might never be ready. Felix. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I am selling the property. Mrs. Whitmore. If you would like a recommendation for a realtor. Felix. I have one. Her name is Genevieve Holst. She has been selling houses on the east side of the city since 1991. I will call her Monday morning. Mrs. Whitmore. Yes. Cyril would have approved. Felix. Yes. Cyril already approved. In 1994. I just did not understand the conversation he was having with you at the time. We hung up. I sat in Cyril's chair for a long moment. Then I called Genevieve. She picked up on the second ring. Margaret. Genevieve, the Linden Avenue property. List it, quietly. No yard sign. I want a CMA by Tuesday and a private showing by next Saturday. Margaret. What about the renovation? Cancelled. Margaret, are you all right? Genevieve, I am perfectly all right. Donovan called me cheap at my own dinner table tonight. I am simply realizing that the renovation budget was the reason. A small silence. Margaret. Cyril told me, in 2010, that if you ever called me on a Saturday night to list a property, I should not ask questions. I should just file. He told you that too. Margaret. Cyril told everyone that. I have been waiting 6 years. So has Felix Ramos. So has Eustacia Marlowe at the lawyer's office. So has your accountant. Cyril spent the last 3 years of his life building you a small, private army of people who would not require an explanation. Tonight, you are calling them in. I closed my eyes. Genevieve. Yes. File. Filing now. I returned to the dining room at 8:14 p.m. The table was still seated. The brisket had been served. The wine was lower in the bottles. Donovan was sitting in his chair with the small, careful posture of a man who had spent the last 27 minutes being aware that he had not yet been told what was going to happen next. Saffron looked up. Her eyes were red. Mom, please. I sat down in my chair at the foot of my own table. I have an announcement. I will be brief. Donovan, this concerns you most directly, so please pay attention. As of 15 minutes ago, I have cancelled the renovation on the Linden Avenue property. Felix Ramos will be sending the cancellation paperwork tomorrow. The crew will not arrive Monday. The renovation budget, the $248,000, Donovan referenced at this table 40 minutes ago, will not be spent on the property. The deposit and kill fee, approximately $37,000, will be paid out tomorrow. As of 8 minutes ago, I have listed the Linden Avenue property for sale. Genevieve Holst will conduct a private showing next Saturday. I expect the property to sell within 30 days. The estimated proceeds, after the mortgage payoff and fees, will be approximately $860,000. None of those proceeds will be coming to anyone at this table. They will be redirected to 2 places. The first is a trust for my granddaughter, Persephone, untouchable by her parents. She will receive it at age 25. The trustee will be Eustacia Marlowe. The second is a charitable bequest of $300,000 to an organization called Cyril's House, a small foundation I established quietly, in 2019 inches, honor of my late husband, which provides legal aid to elderly women facing financial pressure from adult children. Until tonight, the foundation had received only my annual contribution of $20,000. After tonight, it will receive $300. The table was silent. Persephone, my 13-year-old granddaughter, who had been looking at her plate for most of the evening, looked up. Her eyes were very wet. She did not speak. Marlena, Donovan's mother, set down her wineglass very carefully. Donovan opened his mouth. Margaret, This is a wild overreaction to a joke. Donovan. Yes. It was not a joke. A joke has a punchline that does not require the diminishment of a specific person to land. Cheap in the bone is not a joke. Depression-era grandmother is not a joke. No offense is not a joke. Those are sentences carefully designed to insult while preserving the speaker's ability to claim he was being playful. I want you to understand the distinction. You may use it in your future career, since you appear to deploy it often. Saffron was crying. Mom, please. I didn't know he was going to say. Saffron. Yes. You told him the number. What? The renovation budget. $248,000. The number Donovan used at this table tonight as evidence of my supposed hoarding. The only way he knew that number was if you told him. I told that number to one person, sweetheart. I told it to you in October, when you asked me about it over coffee. Donovan did not know I was renovating until you mentioned it. He certainly did not know the budget. You told him. You also told him, apparently, that I was sitting on the cash like a Depression-era grandmother, because that was a phrase too specific to have originated with him. That phrase has the shape of something a wife says to her husband on a Sunday afternoon, and that the husband then reuses at a dinner party because he thinks it will land. Sweetheart, I am not angry with Donovan. Donovan is, at the level of his soul, a man who repeats sentences his wife gives him. I am disappointed in Donovan, but I am not surprised. What I am, Saffron, is informed. I now know what conversations have been happening in your house about me. I know what tone they have. I know what assumptions they make about my money. I know what verbs you use about me when I am not in the room. She put her face in her hands. And, Saffron, I want you to know that you will see Persephone at my house every other Saturday, beginning next Saturday, the 18th. She will be picked up by a car service I will pay for. She will be returned by the same car service at 7 p.m. You will not need to drive her. You will not need to be involved at all. The arrangement is between Persephone and me. If you attempt to prevent it, I will have Eustacia send you a formal letter explaining the legal mechanism by which a 13-year-old in California can request unsupervised time with a grandparent and the parental obstruction. That may constitute interference. I am hoping that letter will not be necessary. Persephone was crying, quietly, carefully, the way a child cries when she is in the same room as the parents who are responsible for what she is crying about. I stood up. I am going upstairs. Please leave at your convenience. The brisket can stay on the platter. The dishes can stay on the table. I will handle everything tomorrow. Persephone, sweet pea. I will see you next Saturday at 3. Front door. The car will pick you up at 2:40. She nodded. I walked out of the dining room. I walked up the stairs of the house Cyril and I had bought in 1973. I closed my bedroom door. I locked it. I did not cry. I had stopped crying about Saffron approximately 3 years earlier. Tonight had not been a betrayal. Tonight had only been the dinner at which the betrayal had finally been said out loud. The first voicemail came at 9:42 p.m. after they had left. Mum, it's Saffron. Please call me. Donovan is in the car crying. He is so sorry. We are both so sorry. We can come back tomorrow. We can talk about this. Please, Mom, please don't do this. I noted she had said, please don't do this. I noted she had not said, I am sorry. I told my husband the budget number and the Depression-era phrasing. I deleted the voicemail. The second voicemail came at 10:18 p.m. from Donovan himself. Margaret, it's Donovan. I want you to know that I take full responsibility for what I said tonight. Saffron had nothing to do with it. I was 3 glasses of wine in. I made a stupid joke, and I am genuinely sorry. I know it was inexcusable. Please don't punish Saffron and Persephone for what I said. I'll do anything to fix this. I'll write a letter. I'll do family therapy. Whatever you need. I noted he had taken full responsibility, which is what people do when they are trying to protect their spouses from the consequences of an existing pattern. I noted he had offered family therapy, which is the offer a person makes when they want a problem to be classified as relational rather than behavioral. I noted he had said, "Please don't punish Saffron and Persephone," which is the deflection of a man who knows the punishment is not coming for Persephone and is hoping the protagonist forgets that Saffron and Persephone are not in the same moral category. I deleted the voicemail. The third voicemail came at 11:51 p.m. from Marlena, Donovan's mother. This one surprised me. Margaret, this is Marlena Whitmore Donovan's mother. I am calling from the hotel where I am staying. I want you to know that I sat at your table tonight and watched my son say what he said, and I did not stop him. I am 68 years old. I have heard my son speak that way about people for 30 years. I have always told myself it was just his sense of humor, or his confidence, or his way of being entertaining at dinner. Margaret, tonight I sat at your table and I watched a granddaughter look at her plate, while her father called her grandmother cheap. And I want you to know that what you did at the end of dinner was the correct thing to do. I am not asking you to undo it. I am only telling you, woman to woman, that I am ashamed of my son tonight, and I am going to fly home tomorrow morning and tell him so in person before I get on the plane. I will not return to your house again. But I wanted to say what I should have said at the table. I sat with that voicemail for a long time. Then I saved it. Some voicemails are not deleted. Some voicemails go into the folder I had started keeping. The morning after Cyril died, the folder labeled Letters from Women Who Finally Said It. The folder had been empty for 6 years. It now had one entry. Genevieve called me at 9:03 a.m. on Sunday morning. Margaret, the CMA is in. 8.95. 3 cash buyers on my shortlist. I think we can close in 21 days. File it. Margaret, are you sure about the charity proceeds? Cyril's house. I know you established it in 2019, but 300,000 in one bequest is a meaningful increase. Are you certain? Genevieve. Yes. Cyril's house is the only thing of his that has my name on it. The houses had both our names. The trust has both our names. The investments have both our names. Cyril's house has only mine. 300,000 is the first time I have given Cyril a gift since he died. He would not have minded. He told me, in the hospital, that I should give yourself permission to spend his money on women who are not me. He was always thinking about other women, in that quiet way of his. Not romantically, charitably. He spent his career protecting women in family law cases. He once told me he had seen 116 elderly mothers lose their houses to adult children. He used the number. He had been counting. A pause. Margaret. Yes. You and Cyril were not ordinary people. Genevieve. We were not. We just looked ordinary because we kept it quiet. We hung up. Persephone arrived at 3 p.m. on the following Saturday in a black sedan I had hired through the car service. She was wearing her school hoodie. She carried a backpack and a single white rose she had clearly brought because she did not know how to arrive empty-handed. She hugged me at the door. She held on longer than she usually did. Grandma. Sweet pea. Grandma, Mom, and Dad have been fighting all week. Dad slept in the guest room 3 nights. Mum told me you were unstable. Grandma, are you unstable? I led her into the kitchen. I poured her a glass of milk. I sat down across from her at the kitchen table. Persephone, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Your mother told you I was unstable because she is in a situation. She does not know how to explain to you in a way that makes her look better than she is. The truth, sweet pea, is much simpler. Your father said something cruel at my dinner table. Your mother had given him the words and the budget number that made the cruelty possible. I responded by cancelling a renovation, listing a house, redirecting the money, and limiting how often I see your mother. That is not instability. That is what instability prevents. I am the most stable thing in your family right now, Persephone. I am telling you this because I want you to remember it the next time someone in your house tries to convince you otherwise. She nodded. Grandma, can I come every Saturday? Sweet pea, the arrangement is every other Saturday. I want you to remember that we are starting slow because your mother is going to test what we have built, and I want what we have built to be strong enough to survive her testing. In a year, if everything has been quiet, we will move to every Saturday. In 2 years, we will move to whatever you want. The car service will continue. The arrangement is between you and me. You do not need anyone's permission. Do you understand? She nodded again. She was crying. I took her hand across the table. Persephone, there is something else I want to tell you. I am leaving you a trust. You will receive it at 25. It is enough money that, if you are careful, you will never need to be small for anyone. I am not telling you to make you feel obligated. I am telling you so that you know, from today onward, that whatever your parents do, whatever they say about me, whatever they teach you about money, you have an exit. You will always have an exit. That is the gift I am giving you, not the money itself, the exit. She put her head down on the kitchen table and cried for a long time. I let her. That night, after the car service took Persephone home, I sat in Cyril's reading chair with the small notebook I had started keeping the morning after the dinner, and I wrote one line. They called me cheap at the table. So I cancelled the renovation, sold the place, gave the proceeds to my granddaughter's exit and to a foundation in my husband's name, and I learned, at 69, that the woman I had been laughing at for the last 15 years had been my own. Then I closed the notebook, and I drank what was left of my tea, and I slept the way a woman sleeps when she has finally stopped being told that frugality was a flaw and started understanding that it had been. All along, the quiet engine of every protection her husband had built her, and that tonight she had spent it, not on a kitchen, but on the freedom of the only person in her family who still deserved to inherit it.